I just want to give mad props to one certain scene of this episode that stood out to me personally, and easily was the highlight of this episode, and probably one of the best moments of the series, is when Inuyashiki, he finally makes it to where his daughter is. And he arrives to see that his daughter is gone. Now, as we know, he has been gifted extraordinary power. He is able to, heal people, cure things that are not necessarily curable in modern day, medicine, science, whatever. It's not a possibility. In this case, when he finally arrived, he tried to save his daughter. But he realized when he was trying to save his daughter, he really couldn't. Nothing was happening. For instance, she wasn't getting better. She wasn't healing, anything like that. She was just still remaining unmovable, staring blank-faced because she was dead, and it was a very sad scene. And what made that scene so powerful was that when Inuyashiki was looking at his daughter, and you saw him crying, trying to, heal her and all that, you would have it to where the screen would pan to her face, and you would just see silence. Like, it was just complete silence, and you could see Inuyashiki looking at his daughter, and it just, he stopped. He completely stopped, he froze up, he was just looking at his daughter, and when he started again, he tried anything he can to heal her. And once again, he had another pause. He looked at her. We had the camera pan back over to Marty's face, and we had this pause again. There was about 3 or 4 pauses throughout this entire scene, and I feel like the pauses is what made the scene extra special. What made it so powerful was because even though Marty survived, the tension in that moment, the way it was built up, that's how you properly handle a scene like that. Because since this is a seinen, I was on the edge of my seat while watching this episode. I was like, is she going to survive this? Is she going to die? I was very curious because I'm like, the story could go any way, any direction. I'm very curious on how the writer would handle this part. And she did survive in the end. However, what made the scene so good was that the pauses in between, the way Inuyashiki was just taking a moment to look at his daughter, realize what's going on, what's happening around him, how she's possibly dead, that's what made the scene so good. Because of the tension in that scene just made it. It really made that scene so good. So anyways, with that being said though, this episode had another great moment that truly made me happy as well, and it was Hiro realizing he is not, in fact, the hero. He is, in fact, the villain. Now, we, as, the watchers of the series, and if you're an original source reader, then we all know by now that Hiro is the villain. He has done some atrocious and heinous things. It's obvious by now that he is the villain of the story. I mean, it was obvious when he was first introduced that he was the villain. However, Hiro is this type of person that didn't realize he was a villain. He thought he might have been the hero, or his overall viewpoint was a little bit warped to the point to where he didn't think he was a bad guy. And in this case, he never thought he was the bad guy, but when he finally found out the truth, you saw him starting to tear up and cry, because he realized what role he was playing in this story, and he's like, why am I the villain? Why is this old guy, this old dude, the hero, and I am the villain? Because when you look at the way that is presented, it actually is very weird. It's very weird from a story perspective, because normally when you're watching an anime or reading a manga, or even if you're reading something else, okay, a different form of literature, usually in this type of story, usually the young person would be the hero, and you would have the old guy that would be the villain, because when we look at everything, out of everything that's happened to these two individual characters, I mean, when we look at what happened to Hiro prior to what happened to his mother, how she, she died and all that, and prior to what happened before, Inuyashiki, before he became a robot as well, before these two characters became a robot, their lives were incredibly different. You had to where Hiro, he was someone that clearly didn't seem to have that bad of a life. Yes, his parents split up, as we could see, but overall he was welcomed by his family. His family loved him. Both sides of the family loved him. They cared for him. They wanted to spend time with him. Now, obviously there were some rough times, and obviously his mother would have eventually revealed to Hiro that she had cancer and she was going to die, which would have been a very sad and awful moment. And then when we shift over to Inuyashiki, Inuyashiki had all of the makings to become a villain, because, I mean, number one, he was diagnosed with cancer, he was dying, and then on top of that, his family didn't really even love him in the first place, as we could see. Like, they do love him, but they didn't show it, and so because of the way his overall character was described and how his life was, Inuyashiki could have easily been the villain, and Hiro could have easily been the good guy. But that was not necessarily the case, and that's why I thought this was very interesting. The way Hiro mentioned, like, why is this old guy the hero, and why am I the villain? I mean, normally in these type of stories, I would be the hero, because he is the young character, he's, nice to look at compared to, like, an old dude. Let's just be real here. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're looking at main characters, you don't usually expect an old guy like Inuyashiki to be the MC. You just don't. You expect someone like Hiro to be the MC because he's a pretty boy. That's just what we come to expect when it comes to these type of series, or any series in Japan, and that's why I find this series so interesting. It's because of how that question was directed at Inuyashiki, but also directed at everything when it comes into literature in Japan. I'm like, this is fascinating. This is some very interesting stuff, because it really does take a moment for you to think about it. Like, yeah, I could see why he would act like that, why he'd think he's probably the hero, even though he has a warped mind. It's very interesting the way he thought about that. So anyways, besides that, though, we all thought that Hiro was manipulating one plane at the end of last week's episode. We were, in fact, incredibly wrong. He was going full-on savage mode. This man was manipulating more than one, not just two, not just three, not just four, not just five. He was manipulating, at the very least, over 10 or 20 different planes at once, which was like, yo, this man has no mercy whatsoever. Thankfully, the character we saw on the plane, or the characters that we saw on the plane at the end of last week's episode, the characters, they didn't die. They got saved by Inuyashiki. So the characters that died in this episode and all that, they were just technically fodder characters, irrelevant characters to the grand scheme of things. So, in a way, I'm happy that they didn't die, but at the same time, though, you gotta imagine still a lot of people technically lost their lives there. So, Hiro's still a heinous individual. He's a really heinous individual, what he tried to do. It's crazy how the man can manipulate air traffic like that just to be able to cause something like that in this episode. It shows how crazy his power is, in that, the only way to really combat this man would definitely be through, Inuyashiki being able to counter him with his own body as well. So, yeah. Besides all of that, though, we also have, a great stuff at the end of the episode with Inuyashiki trying to, save people. Once, everything's burning down and all that, he's trying to save people that were in the middle of the crash and all that. You have it to where the media starts talking about him, YouTube has videos on him, just everybody's starting to find out about him. And I did notice in this episode towards the end, you had it to where the news reporter that was reporting the story on, Inuyashiki, she actually tells the cameraman to look away. I don't know if anyone noticed that or not, but when the cameraman was trying to look at Inuyashiki, get a view close up on him, the actual reporter, she put her hand in front of the man to try to block the camera from looking at Inuyashiki. I'm going to assume the reason why she did that was probably to protect the man's identity, because if people knew about him, or if the person that's causing all this heinous stuff, for instance, Hiro, knew about his identity or who his real name was, obviously, it would be a very bad thing. So, most likely, when you look at it like that, I thought that was a really cool addition to the episode. I don't know if that's what the reporter was trying to do, but I noticed that the reporter was trying to consider Inuyashiki's privacy, but on top of that, though, Inuyashiki's name is getting out there. For instance, at the very least, what he's been doing, his actions of saving people, and he finally has a purpose in life as well, because he even states in this episode, I was born for this moment. I was born to be able to save people. I was born to be able to save people from all the heinous things that Hiro is doing. And I'm like, this is a very beautiful segment of the episode, because this old man, it proves that no matter what time in your life you're at right now, like no matter if it's 80 years in your life or, 100 years, no matter what, sometimes you eventually will have a purpose pop up before you. You might not find out this purpose until the final moments of your life, and that's basically what happened here. So I thought that was an exceptionally well-delivered scene. So anyways, I want to end it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this week's episode of Inuyashiki. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please be honest in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Oh yeah, one little quick note I want to add on before I end this video. Once again, many Chibits have been telling me they have not been getting notifications, and so just as a brief FYI, if you're not getting notifications for my videos, the next to the subscribe button is a bell icon. If you click that, you'll be able to get notified for whenever I upload a video. Now, if you for some reason don't care about my notifications, you don't care about getting notifications from me at all, you just watch me every so often, at the very least, do it for, people you subscribe to, the channels you subscribe to that you do care about. At least go hit the bell icon for them. I'm just making sure that the information is out there, so if you're wondering why you're not getting notified for whenever your selected favorite YouTuber is, uploading content, that is the reason why. Just at the very least, make sure to hit the bell icon. So, I'll end it there. Love you guys. Happy holidays. Please be safe. Chibi out.